Hi, I'm Paul Camillos from Shooting the Breeze podcast. Join the STB crew for conversations and stories around women's hoops and women in hoops, inspiring players, amazing coaches, and the legends behind the scenes. It's our 7th season. Drop us a like and review, and make sure to subscribe for early access and other bonus content.
You know, one person, blazes a trail, the next person speaks up, the next person just, is present. It's just shown like it's okay to talk about it, and it's okay to support it, and it's okay to bring it to light, even though it can be such a, horrific experience for a lot of people. It doesn't mean you can't, have a conversation about it, or you can't do something to help or change.
Welcome to Shooting the Breeze. I'm Paul Camillos, and joining me as a first-time guest host is four-time pod guest, including the Paint It Pink podcast. It's Vanessa Panousis, who's also co-host of Life's a Layup, a fun, no-holds-barred podcast with best mate and former Sydney Flames teammate, Tiana Mungakahia. It's great to have you here, Vanessa. And before we welcome our guest for this episode, thanks for joining me as a guest co-host, and it's great to have you here in the hosting chair, which is something we're planning to mix up a bit more during this series. You've also got a few episodes of Life's a Layup that you've done with T. How are you finding doing the podcast and, podcast life generally?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me as a co-host. Very excited. Palms are sweaty as always. Maybe a little bit more sweatier because it's not my own podcast. But I'm excited. I'm happy to be here. It's been going well. Like you said, we have, I think it was 9 episodes in our first season. It was all new to us. So it was really cool just to see how we grew from the first episode to the 9th one. Actually, now looking back, it was a bit cringe the first few. We thought we were killing it, but no. It was cool. It was fun. So hopefully we get a few guests on in season 2. But yeah, we'll just see how it all goes.
Awesome. So, look, let's get into this episode because it is an important conversation. Mm-hmm. Back in March 2023, we were joined by Alex Bunton to talk about domestic violence, and she also joined us for our live pod from the National Convention Centre in Canberra for the UC Cap's inaugural DV round. In this episode, we're talking about the initiative by the WNBL with ABPA support to partner with Full Stop Australia to take a stand against violence against women. Bunts, it's great to have you back on the show.
Guys, it's like to even just be here talking with you guys. Like, I'm grateful just to still be involved and to have the opportunity to keep this rolling. Like, I'm so grateful to you guys.
It is our pleasure, and it is an important conversation. It's something we really want to make sure that we keep promoting. But before we get into this discussion, for those listeners who don't know your backstories, can you guys just fill us in a little bit about where your careers connected? Now, personally, I think you've played on the same team at least at one point.
Yeah, Flames, yeah.
Yeah, and I think we...
Oh, and a World Uni Game? Was it a World Uni Games too? Yeah,
it was like junior stuff, but we I swear, I feel like I've known you for a long time, but it's just been that basketball scene where we've butted heads every now and then, through teams, or whether we've been old stuff or something. But I think Flames was the main one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that was
2018, I think.
18, 19, yeah.
Yeah, it was Cheryl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, it was a while back. But it was a lot of fun. I mean, from my perspective, there were so many great personalities on that team.
Yeah, there was. It was we had big personalities and we had quieter personalities that we slowly brought them out of their shell. But I think that was such a fun school. And we went through a lot, had a lot of injuries and stuff, which a lot of teams do. But I feel like we just found a way to get through the season. Yeah. And as well, even just to keep the good energy around the group. No one, was really in their own bubble because, the season wasn't going as well as we thought it would.
Yeah.
But I think, just having those personalities helped.
Yeah, and I think having people forget, when we play basketball like that, it's not just all about the winning stuff, and the losing. It's a team. It's a life experience. And when you can do those kind of things and have a team, good or bad on the court, I had so much fun at Sydney. I was one of those injured people, by the way, towards the end.
Yeah. But again, if I
Hey,
remember right,
still
also,
there yelling on the sidelines.
yeah, and if I remember right, I think we got you on for maybe a quarter or a half to do some commentary on the live stream from at least one of the games.
Yeah, I did something too. I remember having a microphone, like staring at a camera going, oh my God, I don't know what I'm talking about.
Oh,
I remember doing something.
I remember that. That
Was
was
it like a sideline commentator?
no, it was during a practice,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we were testing some gear. And we just thought, oh, let's just do a quick live stream cross, and
Yeah.
you came on, and it was really good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think she's been naturally with the mic. I think she needs her own podcast. That's what we're trying to get at.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Well, no. I almost started one, and then I feel like I talked myself out of it. It was like back in, like when the Opals had their Sydney World Cup. Like doing like some podcast stuff, and it was like really overwhelming for me because I was like, I don't know, am I basketball or my podcast stuff? I don't know who I am. Like it was a lot.
Can you both? Multi-dimensional.
Right. So I was just like, I don't know. Can I juggle this? I have a kid. I don't know. Yeah.
Let's get into it because there's a lot to talk about. Let's start off with 16 Days of Activism. Now that's going to start by the time we publish this podcast. And you're the face of the new initiative for season for the WNBL, and it's being supported by the league, the clubs, the ABPA. Yeah. How did the initiative come about?
I know towards the end of last season, Christy, who's the head of WNBL, kind of approached me at one of the Canberra games, and she was just speaking to me about the DV stuff and about the rounds that I've hosted for the past 2 seasons for the Caps. And yeah, she just kind of threw it out there briefly to say, oh, like, what can we do? Like, we need to do more because this has such an impact on not just the community, but like our league. Like, it affects and touches so many people around the league that you don't know of, and just showing how it brings people together and how it actually makes a difference. We just had that brief conversation about what can we do? Like, this is great. And it didn't really come up, and I know that she was still really keen on doing something, but it wasn't official. And obviously finding out that I was pregnant, I had so much going on during this off season, like towards the end, and I was like a little bit distracted with what was happening because I was very sick. But then it kind of popped up again. So now I was like, oh, it's not just her talking about it. It's, Tess Madge and Tolo, the girls around the league, everyone came together, the ABPA, and they were like, this is what we've kind of come up with. Like, what do you think? Like, we could do this. And I was like, guys, you are amazing. Like, yes, I'm 100%. Throw me in the deep end. I'll do whatever I can to help you guys. So, yeah, it's not just me. It's so many women around the league at the moment jumping on board and just throwing their piece in, which is huge. It's not just one voice, it's all of us. And that's what, it's kind of just formed from that.
I feel like since the DV awareness game, have you seen such a growth in obviously the awareness, but also people talking about domestic violence that you guys with?
And the first one was a bit in your face, like people were kind of, oh, this is that taboo subject that we don't really know how to talk about it. Which is fine because it is hard for a lot of people who may not be victims or victim survivors to kind of have a say. And yeah, people just didn't know how to talk about it. And now that we can learn from how, one person blazes a trail, the next person speaks up, the next person just, is present. It's just shown like it's okay to talk about it, and it's okay to support it, and it's okay to bring it to light, even though it can be such a horrific experience for a lot of people. It doesn't mean you can't have a conversation about it, or you can't do something to help or change. And yeah, even the Canberra Caps, learnt from the first round, what can we do better the second round, and then just like continuing to not be silenced about it. And I think that was the biggest message too. It can't just be a one-off thing. It can't just be this one moment we talk about it and we just do a round and that's it. It was like, no, this is an ongoing thing, and it can continue outside of the WNBL. It can continue for other people who can do their advocacy on their own or lend a helping hand in the community on their own. Like, it doesn't just stop at one round.
Right. It's funny you say that, because I feel like even say, like, for example, like with mental health, like a few years ago, it wasn't so commonly spoken about.
Yeah.
But now, like through awareness, education, people are a lot more open to talk about it. People, they're, I guess, more comfortable to kind of put their hand up and be like, I'm actually not okay,
Yeah.
Or like, is this something where you would like domestic violence conversations to try and get to? Like that,
Yeah.
or like, don't be ashamed that you've gone through this. It is okay. You can
Yeah.
speak about, we want to help you.
Yeah, and I think that was like one of the biggest things that I did doing the first round is I don't want to say selfishly, but I was like, oh, I have this platform. I'm coming back to basketball. People listen to me in this space
Mm.
where when I wasn't involved with basketball, so unfortunately with like, social media and stuff, people don't really pay attention, like we got to
Yeah.
use what we have. We got to use that because that's what the world is at the moment.
Yeah.
And, I had Megan Hustlewaite kind of like talk to me about some things, and she's like, why don't you speak up? Because I was like, I'm not just a basketballer anymore, like coming back, and I was a mum, and there were certain things happening in my life, and I was like, why aren't we using our, like, this is my life, this is part of me, like, why can't we talk about who we are and what we want to do? And you
Mm.
mentioned the mental health, and we do the lifeline stuff, and it's like, that's
Yeah.
amazing, but like, what can we do more to help that? Well, how can we use our platform to help it, not just have it this one round?
Right.
And you know Jenna O'Hay doing that stuff kind of inspired me to go, hey, maybe I can talk about domestic violence. Maybe this is a space where I feel safe because I have a community.
Mm-hmm.
And it just felt like I wasn't alone, like even though people around me didn't know what was happening,
Right.
speaking up about it was like, oh, people got my back. Like, people love me for me and appreciate me for what I do for basketball, but also being a person. So
Right.
I'm like, I'm a human. So I'm like, this is the space, like, I can maybe just see how it goes. And yeah, it was
Yeah.
I'm very grateful that I got to do that.
No,
One
that's awesome.
one of the things that you just mentioned is that the original one was kind of in your face, and I think it had to be right
Yeah,
to get people
100%.
talking about it. One
Yeah.
of the things that's kind of interesting about the approach for this season is that the players are wearing the flash on
Yes,
the
the
jersey,
purple.
the purple
Yeah.
flash on the jersey, and it's obvious to everyone, and everyone knows what it's about. I think because it's a little bit more subtle. There are people who kind of step back sometimes when things are too in your face.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's a way of getting people to kind of get on board without scaring them off a little, because there is that proportion of society that's kind of like going, I'm not really comfortable talking about this subject.
Yeah, 100%. And that's something that we've been speaking about as a group, like when we've had our Zoom sessions, about how we want this to look and how we want it to come out, because it's still, obviously coming out as the season only just started. But having the tape across the top of the jersey, we're actually going to have something that's permanently going to go on each jersey, which is still just, really simple, but also evolving. Full Stop Australia.
Mm.
And something that I did bring up was talking about how you need to, with whatever we speak about, with whatever we want to evolve with the WNBL, whether it's domestic violence, mental health, the period poverty stuff, anything that we want to, get deep into, we also need to respect other people and give people a choice still to be able to be
Mm.
involved or like have their own way. And I think that's the respectful thing to do. And yeah, not throw it in people's faces, but create the environment and create the, not the tokenistic event where people feel comfortable to be involved, and then they want to be involved, and they can be involved by sharing something on social media or just talking about it. And, even giving people warnings for games if we have rounds. And that's what I did for the second round. I was like, I really want people to know, like, you don't have to be at the game, but this is what it's going to be about. I want to still give you a choice. Just because we say we're doing something doesn't mean, the community has to. And we really want people to feel comfortable. And yeah, that's a really good point, because yeah, we just wanted it to be subtle and but still make a difference.
Yeah. You did mention Full Stop Australia. So just for the people that don't know what they do and what they're about, can you just give us a little overview of the organization and, what they do and what they're doing for obviously domestic violence victims?
Yeah, so the sexual, domestic, and family violence, basically a support line. And they not only do support, they do advocacy and education. But their main thing is that they have actual trauma specialists, 24/7 counselors to call. And it's basically, you can call them up. They can help you just by listening to you. They can help you by referring you to things that you may need. But it's almost like they're a smaller version of that 1-800-RESPECT, I think is more well known.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're a group of amazing people who do that advocacy and education work is just as important as that support line. But I think the difference is that they don't just have counsellors, they have that trauma specialist. It's an ongoing support if you need it. It's not just a one-off call and like they'll send you to someone else. They will literally support you for your whole life if you need it. And there's no time frame on how long you can speak to them or anything, but they're just there to help. And I think it was a group that was really stood out to the WNBL, which is we want to help those ones who are behind those bigger organisations who may not be funded by the government as well, to get them out there and make sure people know that they're there to help.
It's kind of surprising that they offer all those services and they really don't have the sort of profile that, like 1-800-RESPECT that you mentioned. What can people do to try and, because they're great services, what can people do to try and assist Full Stop Australia?
I think, it's not just one of those things where you go, oh, let's just give them some money and then that'll help them. I think the fundraising part is obviously never going to go, they'll always accept any fundraising. But I think it's the talking about it and spreading the word that they are there to help. And to obviously when they do the education and the advocacy there's a lot of things that you can actually, if you wanted to dive in with them and help them or be involved, they do have some programs, and especially for victim survivors, I know that they're trying to do some projects with them to help with the wider community. But yeah, it's more about just spreading the word that they're there, because the more that they can help, like the bigger they get for other people. And that's, talk about them, share it, share the love.
So true.
One of the things that you mentioned in passing before we hit the record button was about something that came up with the Opals. So do you want to just give us a rundown on what happened?
Yeah, so they call themselves a sisterhood, the Opals, and they wanted to be involved with the community in some way. And Tess Madgen reached out to me as well as the ABPA, and they just said, how would you feel if we asked you to be involved and the group Aloha Cottage, who are up in Gunnedah from your last DV round, if we could support domestic violence? And I was like, yeah, no, like it's not mine. Like I'm happy, like please take it. Like please, if you want to support them. And they were like, no, we want you to be involved. We want to invite Tracy down, who was a lady that I was in communication with. And so for the pre-Olympic games that they had down in Melbourne against China, they wanted to raise awareness and some funds, but mainly awareness for Aloha Cottage, and show the sisterhood involved in the community and with domestic violence. And I think that really sprung something in people's minds to continue the conversation about DV within women's basketball, because to have that platform, I spoke at halftime, and to be in a stadium compared to what we have for WNBL when I was in the stadium in Melbourne and it was packed out, just to have that voice and that platform at that moment, it was like, okay, this is getting somewhere. People are listening, people are hearing it out. And I think that kind of sparked that continuing conversation about what can we do more, because this is, if the Opals who have that platform can get on board with this and the sisterhood can support this, what else can we do?
Right.
I think it points to a lot of support coming from the overall basketball community for this initiative, and not just from where people expect, because the truth is the Opals only come together every so often for the international, and so being able to get behind and support DV shows a real sense of solidarity across the entire community, I think.
Yeah, and it sends that trickle effect. And because like when I was playing in Ballarat, the men's team, after we involved one of the local community groups there, the men's team actually started their own initiative and started to wear domestic violence shirts, and started their own kind of initiative within themselves to raise awareness and educate themselves. And they did that from the group that I was working with, Ballarat, but then also from that Opals moment, which is just, it sends that trickle effect. Like more people want to do stuff, more people want to make a difference. And I think having a men's team involved as well was huge. But that just started from the conversation with the Opals and them making it aware. So yeah, you just never know what can come from something, just like that generosity and that advocacy.
I mean, we all know you've done so much work in the domestic violence space and your advocacy. Do you think being involved in it now, it's helped you heal from your past?
Yeah, 100%. I think, you know, being from where I've been and coming from a like a fight or flight state constantly, and then evolving into this woman who is proud to talk about it and proud to help others, because when I first came out and started talking about it, it empowered me. And I knew that there's a small percentage of women who feel that way, like, or it takes a long time to get to that point. Yeah, having the space and the love behind me, I've just become, instead of being afraid of talking about it, I feel so like I want to talk about it. Like I want to tell people it's okay. And I want to tell people like it will be fine one day. Like, and it takes time, but I find it so easy to talk about now. And yeah, like I just want to do more.
Yeah.
I will talk
No,
to anyone and everyone about it, and I'm not shy about it. And it's turned into from fear to an empowering state. And during the off season, I actually got to speak to a group called Raven Collectives, and I was playing down in Ballarat. And it was the first time that I actually spoke about my experience in a lot more detail. And I was like, yeah, I got this. Like, I'm totally going to be fine. And that was the first time I think I felt nervous, but I knew it was because I cared so much. And I was like,
yeah.
my leg was like uncontrollably shaking. I was like so grateful that I was behind this podium, and I was like, why is my leg shaking so much?
Oh, my.
But I was so happy, and I was like, wow, like even speaking about some, pretty deep stuff, I was like, this is going to help so many people.
Right.
And I'm so happy that I'm here now.
It's funny you said that because, like, obviously, being athletes, everyone thinks, we're warriors, we're so strong, like we can get through anything kind of thing. So it's like, well, actually, yeah, we are strong, but it's also like things can also break us down, you know?
Yeah, you don't know what goes through our head when we have to step on that court either, okay? Like, we're trying.
Right.
We're still human.
Seriously.
Yeah.
So having those stereotypes of being an athlete, having to put that front on, how were you able to navigate through that whilst, people not really knowing what you were going through? Like, how were you able to deal with it yourself? I know in your previous podcasts with Shooting the Breeze, you did mention that you had gone to your family, but you were obviously a little bit ashamed and like nervous to go up to them first, as in like sooner than later. So how did you build that courage to go up to them and tell them, hey, this is what I'm going through?
I think the shame part is, looking back at it now is just, it's so crazy to me. I'm like, why would I ever feel ashamed of something? And yeah, it was just one of those moments where I think I had to put myself first, but also second, because I had Opal, and there was like this part of me that was like, I have to reach out for help. I have to say something or find some refuge, because if I continue on this path, I'm just going to go crazy, or I'm going to get hurt, or something really bad is going to happen. And yeah, I don't know. It was this mental and emotional game that I just had to fight through because of Opal. And I feel very lucky that I had her. I feel very lucky that that was my why, where I know some people may not have that. But I also had to go, if I don't do something, this is not going to change. Like, it's up to me. As much as people want to put their hand out. I've said this before to a lot of people, and sometimes it can come across as really, really harsh, but we can't play a victim. We can't play, poor me or why me in a way. Like, we have to go, do you know what? No, like, I'm going to get my life back. I owe that to myself. Like, I have to fight for myself. Because everyone can put their hand out and say, I'll be there for you, but you have to fight. You have to find something in you, because it's there, that gut feeling that something's wrong. And you just have to dig deep for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, and no matter what it is, whether it's you have a child, or whether you just think about you, or you think about your family. Yeah, for me, it was just, Opal really, really saved me.
There was one thing that kind of the timing of things for you, because you had the knee injury. And you sort of thought, okay, that's it. My basketball career is over. Do you think that also contributed to your not wanting to kind of recognise and realise what was happening?
100%, yeah. And that's one of the hardest things when people don't understand about domestic violence, is that mental side of it, where you might already be at a really low state, and it's actually a lot easier to be manipulated, to think a certain way or to feel a certain way or be influenced. And I think when my whole life was crashing down, I was like, I've identified as a basketball for this long, who am I going to be? Like, where's my life going? And then something else kind of comes in and is going to make it all better. You gravitate to that and you think, all right, this is my life now, that I'm going to hang on to this. And you do block out any other negative things. And that goes to that mental health side where you go, all right, like I've convinced myself like this is who I am now. Or I think when you're in a low state, you're exposed to that manipulation, and you're kind of blindsided, I think, because you want the best. You want to grab onto whatever's positive, or like whatever seems positive in your life. And if that's someone telling you you're the best thing in the world, or like I'll take care of you and like I love you and all this kind of stuff, you want to gravitate to that because you need that positivity. You need that positivity in your life to keep going forward. And with lots of reflection, there's a lot of stuff that I try not to feel like I regret, because I made decisions in my life and I chose to do things, but I don't blame myself either. And I think that's one of the biggest things, never to blame yourself.
Mm-hmm. So true. And you probably hear from outsiders as well. It's like, why didn't you leave that situation? And that's a common question, right? In everything. Why wouldn't you just get up and leave? There is so much more than just getting up and leaving. Like you said, you had Opal. You know what I mean? You have to think about someone else other than yourself.
Yeah.
So what kind of brought you to that place where it was like, no, I need to leave?
I think it was when, and that process too, like I was still pregnant and I was still going back and forth and thinking, it'll be fine. I'll get through this. I'll make it work. No, it's not fine. This is not okay. Like, it's such a whirlwind of emotions. And when I realized how far away I was from myself as well, I was like, my life just seemed so blank. It was just nothing. And it was like this realization of like, how can I be here from who I was and who I am, but I feel like I'm on the complete opposite side. I feel like I'm on the inside. I've explained it before, like I'm on the inside screaming at myself, going like, I'm here, and I'm just like not even processing anything's around me. And it's like, anything's okay. It's like, well, I can't let fear, I can't let, the thought of one person destroying my life. And I think that was huge. I was like, one person out of how many people are trying to help me, or how many people are around me. And it just hit me. And that for me, it really just hit me. And it was just, I felt it was my birthday.
Oh, wow.
And when I realized I had no money in my bank account, like he took it all, like I just felt like nothing. And I was, no, like I can't be here. Like I got to get out. It was just like this moment of, if I didn't do that then, I don't think I would have done it. I had to have used like that rage and that fear. Like, I don't know what all the emotions I had, but if I didn't do it, and I called my mom and I was like, I need to like call the police. But I was afraid of the police at that point because of the stereotype that I had of them. And I don't know, I just got to talk to someone, I don't know who it is. And then when they came and saw me at my house, I was like, I'm still doing the wrong thing. Like, I shouldn't be talking to them. It was weird, but I was like, if I don't keep going.
It's literally like manipulation.
Yeah. It's
like, oh, that's.
And I was just, I just remember sitting there going, I just got to keep talking. And I don't know what's going to come out of my mouth, but I'm just going to say it. And then it just kind of rolled over. But that process still was so hard. Like, I kept going back and forth for so long. Because of the mental state that I was put in. But I don't know, it just hit me. That just, I had to just keep going and keep putting out my hand for anyone who was going to help me.
Right. This might be a little bit more personal, but did your family, close friends, they see any changes in like your behaviors? And like, I know you've mentioned in the earlier pod, like there's obviously different traits and personality changes that people go through. Did they notice anything, or they didn't really, like, you kind of put up a facade and,
For a while, especially at the start, I didn't want my family to be disappointed. I didn't want to like let them down. And I think my brother was like super suspicious. He was like, what are you doing? Like, why don't you talk to me anymore? I had Carly, and she was my best friend, and I was like distancing myself from her, and she's like, why? Like, what are you doing? Like, you're supposed to be happy. And I remember opening up to her, but then I was afraid because I was like, she's going to judge me, but she's my best friend. And then I opened up to my parents a little bit, like especially my mum. I was afraid of telling my dad for a while. But then the second I would say something, they just wanted to help me, but then that's when I shut them out. And then I was like, there was just, oh no, I've let them in, like they're going to do something, or like something's going to happen.
He's going to find out.
Yeah, like it was really hard because they did see me distance myself, and I think that's one of the biggest things where it's easier to just ignore those people or put them aside, whether that's to keep them safe or to just not get them involved or out of fear. I was just so grateful and so lucky that they were there when I really needed them. Like, even though I pushed them away, and it wasn't in a mean state, I didn't do it out of, anger or anything, but it was, I just stopped talking to them, and they were just like, well, something must be going on. But we don't know what it is, but she seems happy because her socials are happy, and it's easy to kind of put up a mask with that.
One of the things for me, and I mean, I'm looking at it from the outside, it's really hard, particularly with yourself as an athlete and someone that I've seen, on the court and got to know. It was such a huge disconnect. It was like, no, this can't be right, because I know Bunts, and and I think that's one of the things that people really struggle with, because, like you said, they see the socials are happy, and this is happy, and that's happy. And particularly in your case, there's a preconceived notion of who Alex Bunton is. There's this big gap, and people can't reconcile that. Look, and I'm pretty sure that even to this day, there are people that are kind of like, really? How
I'm going to jump in. I'm not going to lie. I remember, I think you had written a post on your Instagram. I swear I scrolled past it. I was like, nah. I like refreshed it. And I was like, wait, is this? Yeah, I was shook. I'm not gonna lie about that. Yeah, I was shook.
Yeah. And that's it. I think that was the hardest thing for me too, because as I said before, like I knew who I was. I know who I am, but I lost that. And I can't tell you how daunting it was coming back to basketball. And I remember when Gori called me and asked me to come back, in the moment I was like, yep, because I told myself, like, I have to, not be afraid of doing things in life anymore. So I was like, I just said yes. I was like, I didn't even know if I was ready. I was like, I'll play 2 minutes of like a game. I don't care. I'll be a benchy 100%. Like, I'll just do it. But when I got there, like walking into the first training session, kind of like what you said, Paul, like people knew me, and people knew me from basketball, but they didn't know me for those like couple of years in between. And so they treated me like it was the same, like they didn't know yet, and they were treating me like, oh, Bunts is back, like this is like, look at her, hey, I'm a kid now, what the hell, But then I was there going, oh my God, like what have I done? Like, where am I right now? I've got to put myself in a social situation. Like, they didn't know that I was afraid of like coming back. But I think it'll go back to what I said before, that love though, that's what made me feel, do you know what? I don't want them to feel sorry for me. I need them to understand me if I feel certain ways sometimes, or I distance myself. I want to let them in, because I guarantee you I'm not the only person in this league, in this community that I'm coming back to, who's gone through what I went through. And I don't know, just definitely reformed who I was. I could be Bunts again. Like, people can make me laugh and welcome my little family, and not look at me as like this single mom. They're like, oh, Bunts has got a little kid and her name's Opal. Like, Opal, you're cooler than her. Like, wow. Like, it was really, really cool. But it was I couldn't even tell you who I was for those years apart away from basketball, and that's why I'm so happy to have basketball. I didn't look at it as just a sport. I look at it as, like, I've got some amazing people around me, and I throw a ball in a hoop, and it's fun, like, and if I'm good at it, then like that's great. But it's
bonus.
I'm like, this is awesome, and the community is just it's magical what you can do when you actually make it more than just sport.
So true. Speaking of love, happiness, and love seeing you flourish and just smile, Bunts, seriously. Can we please talk about Darcy? He's making an appearance on the pod because he is a great egg. How is he? Obviously, congrats on the pregnancy with
Yep.
Darcy.
Thank you. 27 weeks on Friday.
27.
Yes. I mean, I knew Darcy from New South Wales Country, New South Wales Metro days. He's a beautiful human. I just wanted to ask you, how did you find being able to trust someone again and bring someone in? You know what I mean? After everything you had gone through. I mean, you don't have to answer this like too deeply if you don't want to, but what went through your head mentally? How am I supposed to trust someone ever again?
I think, I told my mom, I was like, I'm going to be a single mom. Like, that's my life now. It's not that I hate men or women or anything. I was like, I'm sick of people. And I was like, I had that mindset for a while. And I'm not going to lie, I tried dating people. But it just was not, I was like, ugh. Like, in my head, I had this expectation of what someone should be, and I wanted someone real, and I wanted someone just like a genuine person. And honestly, the biggest thing was before the trust stuff was who's going to be there for Opal as well. And I think that was my mindset, and I had to shift from going, yeah, I do want someone to, you know, be with, but I've got this little person who looks at me, and I have to set standards for her too. Like it was huge, a lot of things I had to think of, but I was like, nah, I'll just do it on my own. And then Darcy came along, and there was this really safe space with him because I already knew him from back 15 years ago, whatever it was, 10 years ago at the AIS, and he was literally saved in my phone from 10 years ago when he gave me his number again as best friend. Because
Stop. That's wild. What?
Yeah.
And I need a story like this.
Honestly, I know. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is the reason why I've been telling myself to wait, or like, you know, whatever it is. And it was really cool because we didn't really speak about, like, he saw like the articles that I did, you know, when I retired and then coming back, and he kind of knew, but he's the most chilled person, and he doesn't like force any conversations if you don't want to talk about it. I don't know, he just like makes me feel I'm his best friend again. Like it was like,
I love
it was
that.
so nice. And I think we gradually evolving. I think the best thing I could have done was go, I'm not going to dump my trauma on him, and I want him to understand me, and I don't want him to be afraid of anything that my life has been. And I want to involve him by doing like all this DV stuff. And I think one of the first games he came to was just before our DV round, and he was in Batemans Bay, and he came up to the Townsville game, and I wasn't playing, but it was like the next round or something, like towards the end of the season. I was like, I'd love for you to be there and just see what like this is about, and like having that to introduce him to that DV space and talk about it. I think he got to appreciate it from like, yeah, it may be about her and I want to understand her, but like, look at this. It's the positive light that was shined on it, so he can have that different understanding. And I think that really helped with like those conversations, and then me feeling comfortable enough, you know, this is my experience, and I didn't have to feel ashamed sharing it with him, because it was just, look at this. It doesn't have to be like, you know, domestic violence, because, you know, the word violence is quite heavy for a lot of people. And the stigma that it has around it, you know, even he didn't know that there was like more to it. You know, there's the emotional, financial, you know, physical, all that. Yeah, it was like he made it really easy to just talk about it. Like when it happened, it wasn't forced. Like he made me feel like I was just like in a new relationship, but like I still knew him. So it was like,
and he probably created that safe space for you as well.
Yeah, he just and I think that's what it is. My part where I learned to trust someone, but it's also just being a really good human.
Yeah.
It like makes it easy, you know, just be a good person, and then things will be fine.
Yeah, it sounds easy, but I feel like these days it's hard to find, you know?
I know. That's why I said before, I was like, ugh, no, thank you, no one.
Okay, maybe should I just change some contacts in my phone as best friend, and then hopefully maybe in like a year or two.
Honestly, and it was so funny because I remember seeing his family again, and you know, it was really, it was a nice, one of those literal fairy tale moments of like, oh, I've done like a 360 or like whatever they call it.
I was actually wondering how it all came about. Like I was like, how did this all like reach? Yeah, I had no idea. That's
Sarah
like
Blitzarves, thank you. She's my little Cupid angel. He
cute.
literally just mentioned we were down in Melbourne for a South game, and then we caught up in the hotel. We hadn't seen her. We catch up, and I went out, and
Yeah.
she was just getting a cup of tea, and she was like, "So weirdly, I had this conversation. Do you remember Darcy Harding?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Well, he's single, and I joked the other day because he was saying, 'Oh, Sarah, do you have any single friends?' kind of thing." And she was like, "Oh yeah, Bunts," and he was like, I used to be in love with Bunts," and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" I was like, "Do I like act all like giggly and message him? Like, what do you do
That's
these days? Like, do I slip into his DMs? I don't know. Like I've got a kid now. Like I'm a mum. Like, what do I do?"
oh my god, that's such a cute story. What the hell? I'm jealous.
Yeah, so Sarah, thank
I
you.
love
She's like,
that.
"Bunce, don't be too full on." She's like, just say hi. And I was like, I don't know what to do. Yeah, I was like, I don't know what to do. And like literally like was messaging him with her, and I felt like 15 again, going like, like yeah. And now we're just living here with some goats and a kid and another kid.
Mate, living the life. Living the life.
Honestly, it's really cool because I thought I'd never date someone from basketball, like with someone from basketball. I thought like I need someone outside of that.
Yeah, yeah.
And when I play with like down in Ballarat, he knew everyone, and he like it was just really cool to have like the community around us, and like guys from Melbourne come up to Das and be like, "Hey man," like, and be like speak so highly of him, and I was like, "Oh, so nice."
Yeah, he's my man. He's my man.
Yeah. And Oprah calls him Darcy Dog, and like, yeah.
Oh, my heart. Stop it. That's so cute.
So yeah, shout out to you, Darcy, if you listen.
Yeah, no, sorry. I had to bring him up. Sorry. I had to bring him up. Shout out, Darcy. We love you.
So there is hope, guys. Anyone listening, there is hope.
Oh, me? First of all.
So that what you have to do is that typical like, I'm going to be single forever, just like get rid of
Well, I
people.
actually think I might be at this rate.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, like, wow, they pop up.
Buns, I've been doing this for like 3 years now. Plus, maybe, 4, 5.
Where is everyone?
Yeah, still single.
So guys, if
Anyway.
you're listening to this podcast, it's not just about basketball, it's also about fun.
I'll add my number, my Instagram below. Thanks. Shooting the breeze, just tag me below. Appreciate it. Oh, that is so funny. Okay, so
Look,
kind of
we've
serious.
got to get back on topic.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry,
back
guys.
to
That's right.
this is the issue. I get sidetracked. See, I don't know if this is a good thing that I'm a co-host here.
No, this is great.
This
Poor
shows you all aspects of how life can really take a turn if you just, change it for yourself. Like, just do something, reach out, take the first step, go in a different direction.
All right, noted, Buns. I got it.
So, look, I got to ask a question about the initiatives and the awareness games that the WNBL's having, because the DV round had a big impact, and it's had a positive impact. I'm kind of curious, both of you, what sort of other initiatives would you like to see?
I think anything to do that has that personal attachment to any of the players or anyone in the league, support, whatever, start anyone, that makes it so much more meaningful. There's so many out there that couldn't even just tell you what one, because I think that personal impact, it needs to come from the players, and that will have that meaning, because I love the fact that we can do period poverty and stuff like that, but that mental health, like that affects so many people, like that are our teammates or our friends or our family. Domestic violence, same thing. So anything that's that personal, that's player-led, player initiative, I want to see that. I want to see some of the girls reach out to the ABPA or the WNBL, me, anyone, and put something forward, because if it means something to them, we can really talk about it freely, and it can make more of an impact.
Yeah. I was just going to say, I was talking with T actually earlier today, because I was saying about the whole podcast stuff. And then I was like reading her some of the questions that you guys have written out. And then I was like, what's so strange? How there actually isn't a pink round. And obviously T close to home.
Yeah.
Like pink rounds. Like I was so and then I was like, wait, no, we do. And she was like, no, it's only certain teams do like the pink round. Like Perth Wildcats do it. Kings, Flames do it. But they actually, like NBL, WNBL, there isn't a pink round, which I was so shocked about. And like, wondering why haven't we got one? Obviously, a lot of other sports incorporate it. Like there's cricket. I don't think rugby do it, but there are other sports that, you know, it's like a no-brainer. And then obviously over in college as well, they do the whole KYAO games as well. So yeah, I think obviously it's close to home with T going through it all, but I think seeing a pink round would be really cool in the next few years.
Yeah, and make it something that sticks, you know, make it, and that's the meaningful thing. We've got T who can, you know, shed light on it as well.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
make it more meaningful, not just like leave it onto the club that she's with.
Yeah, right.
And I know that there's like, you know, we can talk about logistics and like everything like that, but it's not hard to be able to spread that and spread that love with that too.
I mean, even if it isn't breast cancer, just cancer in general, I feel like probably nearly every family these days is affected by cancer in general. So yeah.
I suppose that's one of the things that surprises me sometimes. The initiatives come up and then they disappear. And you kind of think, well, wait a minute, why isn't this staying? Why?
Yeah.
And I've never really heard any reasons why they haven't kept these running through. I mean, look, let's be honest, there's no shortage of rounds.
Right.
Yeah.
And I really wonder about, sometimes, do people just think it's all too hard?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is I think we go, okay, we want to jump on board behind this. And when I go with the Canberra stuff, you know, the club itself did such a good job. Like, we'll give you anything you need, but then they're limited because we haven't organised it earlier, or it's like a last minute idea to be like, hey, let's do like a player-led initiative round. So I think, the want to do it and the will to do it's there, but then it's the resources as well. I think when we reach out to, you know, our sponsors or the people who can really help us get, you know, if it's clothing, whatever that, you know, socks, whatever we need, it needs to be a push from everyone and that community drive as well, I think, because our sources are limited, and I think that really affects us in a way. And I don't want to make it an excuse, but, you know, we go, okay, we'll do it, but we can only put X amount of money towards it. But we should just do it and then continue the conversation and not worry about the money. You know, like it should be like this, all right, let's do it, and like, let's never give up on it. Yeah, I don't know. I can't speak personally on it because I don't know, but I just think, logistics, it needs to be, we need to plan this throughout the year way before the season.
Yeah.
You know, with this DV stuff, it needs to be a conversation 6 months before it starts, and then it can be like, this is happening, whether people want to jump on board or not, you know?
So true.
And then you can have multiple things. It doesn't have to just be, as you said, Ness, like we can have a pink round. And it can be spoken about, and then it can be a continuous, like if people want to continue to wear pink warm-up tops, maybe, like, you know, to like show the support. Like there's, I think we need to expand that. You know, you don't want 50 people trying to give you all the one idea, but like you expand the group and expand the voice that might have ideas, or expand the resources, because coming together and reaching out, you know, with some of the DV stuff, there are actually so many people out there who want to help, but we need to extend, you know, the group and extend our, you know, options, I think, and see what we can have.
Yeah, it's a bit like that original Bunts t-shirt.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, they're really cool t-shirts, but the fact is, I know that they didn't run off a lot of them, but there was some money generated, which was put towards, was it a
DVCS, which is the
DVCS,
local Canberra, helpline. And actually, they were made by Emma Groves, who was a fan, and she was like our like ABC reporter, and she was like, I want to make these shirts, and she did the artwork. Do you know how cool that is? Like, and that was sick. Like the things that she made were amazing.
Yeah, we actually had her on for the fan art podcast.
Yeah.
And that's
cool.
And that's where we started talking about those t-shirts. I think I made a really offhand comment saying, "Oh, yeah, if that post was on a t-shirt, I'd buy it."
Yeah.
it was just something as simple as that. And
you know, people ask me, they're like, I like big bunts and I cannot lie. And I was like, so many people ask me if that's a shirt. I was like, I could make it. But yeah, it's little. I think little things go a long way, and we don't need to complicate, you know, the things that we want to do, because we actually have such a huge platform at the WNBL. Like we do. It's on social media. We just got to come together. We just got to tell people we're doing it.
Yep.
Right. This is what we're doing, and that's
it.
Awesome.
I think that's why we have the help of like ABPA are actually really good. They really want to push things for us, but there are some blockages in the way of things that
really,
you know,
have their hands tied.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
And a lot of things, like even with the DV round, I know like I came to a lot of like road bumps where I'm like, I really want this, and it's like, oh, we can't do that. I don't want to overstep and like, you know, I have no idea like what you can and can't do, but it was just hard to get things done.
Yeah.
Like even like having it like a league thing was, there was a lot of formalities that you had to do with each team, or like what we can wear, what we can't wear, sponsorship, logo, all that kind of stuff. So
Right.
the prior preparation, I think, will make a huge difference.
You've been through a lot, Bunts, and as you've said in the past, I couldn't have imagined the support and love that surrounded not only me as a victim survivor, but women and men beyond the court. So on a final note, for anyone out there who may be experiencing DV, what's the one message you'd like to give about support being there, even if it isn't immediately obvious?
I think going back to what I touched on before was like, listen to that inner voice that's in there, your gut feeling, to overcome that fear, even if it's just by like 1%, even if it's for a moment, to actually reach out and get help. And it doesn't have to be the police straight away. It can be people like Full Stop Australia. It can be a friend. It can be a stranger. But I think taking that first step is huge. And to see people like me, like, please look at me like an example, like, please look at other people, and, you know, go on the internet and look at people who've overcome these situations or who've made a difference, because you'll see like it's actually going to be okay. And, you know, it's a lot to trust, and it's a lot to have faith when you do finally reach out for help. But just trust the process of it, and like, don't give up on yourself, because choosing you and you choosing a better life is the right decision. There's no gray area in that. And I think you just have to rewire yourself and like be kind to yourself in that, because it's not just going to happen overnight. Even if you reach out, it's not going to be 100% solved, but like, you just have to fight for yourself, and you know what's right and you know what you need. And I think that, hold on to that 1%, even that half of 1%, 0.5%, like, just grasp onto it and trust it.
So true.
Guys, there's been a lot of fun and a lot of laughs all the way through, but it's been a really great conversation about a topic that we need to talk more about. And I got to say, it's been great sitting on the sideline, just sort of listening to you guys talk about this, and talk about from the perspective of two people who've obviously known each other for a long time. You've played together, you've known each other for a while. It's a different perspective, and I think it's a perspective that's important for people to listen to. Because it's not just that, you know, ask a question, get an answer kind of approach. And I think this has a lot more impact. So I really want to thank you both for your time. It's always great talking to you guys. It really is. You know, and thanks to both of you for coming on the show.
No, thank you. And just on that, Paul, I think I really like that you said it like that. It's a nice conversation. Like, it's been fun, because as serious as domestic violence is, there is those light moments. There is that happier, you know, moment after. And I think that's one of the biggest things that, you know, we don't want to disrespect it. Sorry, we don't want to disrespect how serious this can be, but you also have to see how empowering it can be when you talk about it, and it can have that happy ending, or it can have that positive outcome, or we can make a change. And talking like this and making it a normal conversation is huge. And so I thank you for allowing that space, and Ness as well, like, to have this space to be able to feel, I'm okay, it's okay, let's talk about it, because we want people to hear this and we want to get our message across. So thank you guys.
Thank you, Bunts, for opening up.
Yeah.
You are one brave woman, girl.
Thank you.
Make sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you get our latest pod. And we really appreciate if we could get a like and a review so we can extend the reach to more listeners. And don't forget, follow us on Instagram, Twitter and LinkedIn.